Hello and welcome to today's historic Best of 3 deck tech and gameplay video on Izzet Prowess. Now, one thing really fast before we get into the deck tech proper. As you will have just heard, I do apologize, but there is some basically work being done on my home right now, or where I live, to be more particular. So if you hear, loud noises that sound like drills or screws or whatever, that's what it is. But I'm running out of free time, so I have to kind of make do with the setting that I have, so I apologize. Anywho, on to the deck tech proper. Izzet Prowess is a super, honestly, pretty linear, I wouldn't call it a glass cannon, but it's a cannon of a deck. The deck is basically two parts of creatures with prowess, anything from Soul-Scar Mages to Monastery Swiftspears to, I'm going to include Balmor, Battlemage Captain, Kinra Spellspear, and Spellweaver Eternal. All of these are prowess creatures that we want to get really, really big with a load of relatively cheap spells that make up the second portion of the list. Anything like Fading Hope and Dive Down for some interaction, to Opt and Play with Fire for more damage, or, well, Opt is card draw, Play with Fire is damage. But basically, in addition to the prowess creatures, we run a load of pretty cheap, easily casted spells that we want to throw ideally at our opponent, and making our board in the process absolutely massive between all of our prowess and prowess adjacent abilities. And we want to take those big creatures and just throw them at our opponent's face. Deck is very, very simple, very linear. You could argue it's almost like a goldfishy kind of deck where you have to have it or you don't have it. But still, a pretty fun list, and different than the Izzet Wizards floating around the format, I do believe. Land base, also very self-explanatory. Any lands that you have that come into play untapped on turns 1 and 2 are what you want. This is not a list where you want to run tapped lands of any kind. You would do much better just running more basics, or even if you have access to the basic fetch land, even that will work here too. Also have 4 copies of Ramunap Ruins for free damage, and a couple of little utility lands like Hall of the Storm Giants and Otawara for just more utility where we can find it. And the sideboard, also equally very self-explanatory. Brotherhood's End as either a creature sweeper or an artifact sweeper. Rampaging Ferocidon for opposing life gain decks, or if you need 2 decks that go really, really wide. Chandra Awakened Inferno is usually brought in against the counterspell heavy matchups, but if you need it to be a admittedly overcosted sweeper, you can do that too. Alpine Moon for the couple of lands you need to hate on in the format, anything from Nykthos Shrine to Nyx to Maze's End and Baldur's Gate. Grafdigger's Cages against usually graveyardy, reanimatory kind of stuff. Cyclonic Rift for another sweeper that is arguably overcosted, but we don't mind it because its floor is just an okay instant speed bounce effect, and can also sometimes just blow out a game and win as another form of a sweeper. And a couple of Braids if you need more creature removal or even more targeted particular artifact removal. And that is the basis of the list. It's really, really simple. We just, play prowess creatures, play cheap spells, and use those prowess creatures to bonk your opponent until either their life total is 0 or yours is, or you run out of steam, whichever comes first. And with that out of the way, that's basically all for the list. Don't forget to like the video if you like it, subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions on X, what about Y, or other generally constructive comments, I shall do what I can to respond to what I see. Anywho, now on to game number 1. And game number 1 with our little Izzet Prowess list. And this is a perfectly fine, in a super ideal world, you want to have one of the 1-drop prowess creatures, but this is good enough that we'll just take it. We will go ahead and pay 2 life and Play with Fire down the Sarah Ascendant. Life gain decks are one of those in the first game pre-board where, unless we get really lucky, we're in for a rough time. They're just going to gain so much life that they're going to go faster than us pretty routinely. Or they're going to be able to they're going to gain more life than we can go fast, I should say. really fast. We'll go ahead and plot the Show-Off here. But post-board games, it just comes down to can you find the Ferocidon, and if you can, you might be okay. Although our opponent is having a very, very slow opener, which is very nice to see. So in that case, I will go ahead and Steam Events. Take 1 turn off for setup, playing a Balmor and a Swiftspear. Go ahead and attack. Next turn, we have the Show-Off. And I don't think it's plausible that we kill our opponent next turn, but because they've missed some land drops, we've more or less fired on all cylinders here. And this will be a good example of, like I talked about a couple seconds ago, of we oftentimes lose this game pre-board unless we happen to slide under their setup, which appears to be what we're going to do now. Sorry, what is that card? Cool. That is a card. We'll go ahead and play a Ramunap Ruin. Play the Show-Off here. Guess we'll go ahead and do an opt and see what we can find. Just looking to make a big old scary board. Don't need another land. Honestly, Play with Fire is pretty good to get rid of blockers. We're at 15 damage. 15 will go to... If we can, hang on. Okay, yeah. 7, 3, 15. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I think we have lethal here, so we're going to dive down on the Balmor, though it doesn't terribly matter. Yeah, I think we have a good amount of lethal there, and that's a good showing for the list. It is exactly what we're trying to do. We're just trying to blow up our opponents really fast. We will bring in Rampaging Ferocidons and probably some Abrades. Play with Fires can go out here. They're not the most useful, and I'd rather have some of the sideboard cards. Honestly, maybe one of the Ionizes are down. They're useful, but they're not like absolutely required. The 3 of is a nice buffer in the first game, but now that we know what we're going against, we less have need for a counterspell. Yeah, it's honestly, with any luck, it's not great, is it? I want to keep that, but it's a bad keep, so I'm going to mulligan it. Be responsible. And honestly, we also find a sideboard card, so that was the correct thing to do. Ionize will go back. It's not strictly necessary. Play the Izzet, or Izzet. I think it's Izzet. On 1, and the Soul-Scar. And honestly, at this point, we just kind of want to curve out. Yeah, Izzet on 1, Soul-Scar Mage. And now we'll play the Hall on Storm 2. The Hall of Storm Giants on turn 2. So we can play the Eternal, and again, just set up our board with a couple of, like, somewhat scary and or threatening creatures. And just try and threaten some damage. They are going to gain some life, though. It's not that bad, though. They play another 1-drop, like the Sarah Ascendant thing, whatever the 1/1 dude that gets +4/+4 or whatever. Sarah Ascendant. Yeah, it was Sarah Ascendant. Okay, I was right. They're playing things. They're going to gain a lot of life, it has to be said. We will do the Hall. All that being said, I think we still play creatures. We can't afford to not do it. Honestly, and I think we attack. If they take a double block, we're kind of okay with that. Because we would love to get rid of a Soul Warden in that case. Okay, that's cute. I like that. Is it 30 or more? Okay, it's 30 or more. Credit given to our opponent. Their list is not like the typical mono-whitey life gain kind of thing. In the meantime, play a Mountain, play a Ferocidon. I want to keep the Spellweaver Eternal. Aha, that won't happen now. And where again, if they take the damage, we're just happy. Or sorry, if they take the trade, we're happy to take it and lose the Soul-Scar Mage. And if not, we're doing equally fine. Let's see, next turn we can play an island and keep the Soaring City up if we need to, as an option. Another Abiding Grace. Yeah, you don't get to gain life. You can try. Swiftspear is pretty good. So in that case, we will play the Swiftspear. We're totally fine taking a little bit of damage from our own Ferocidon. And we'll dive down in our hand. we're pretty safe to attack. They can make like a 3-for-1 block, but if they do, we're just going to dive down. And we're going to dive down on the Ferocidon and just hope it lives. This not only retains the Ferocidon for its life, its anti-life gain shenanigans, but also does that. And normally I'd feel a little weird about keeping a 6-minute game, but this is a pretty fast list, and like I talked about earlier, I am damn near out of time in the day to record, due to, personal life things. Anywho, on to game, or that was a pretty good showing for the list, and pretty indicative of what the deck's game plan, as I get tongue-tied. So yeah, it was pretty good. And we're going to go ahead and keep it, even if it is only 6 minutes or whatever it is. Now, on to game number 2. And game number 2 with our little Izzet Prowess list. And this is honestly pretty good. Again, we don't have a 1-drop, but like we showed in the first game, or like I showed in the first game, it's still, it's not that bad. Go ahead and play the Islet, so we have access to both colors. And the Hall of the Storm Giant means we now know what we're going to play on turn 2. Although we might actually just plot the Show-Off and hide it for a minute, so we can have a particularly explosive turn later on. Maybe. Haven't really figured out what our opponent is doing, but we'll get there. Yeah, we'll go ahead and plot it. Our opponent being in the most heavy removal colors there is. We might actually get the fuck out of here. I was thinking about playing a particularly... Ooh, it's tokens. Does that change my calculus at all? That's fine. You can Thoughtseize basically anything in this hand away, and I don't terribly mind. I want to say it's token, because it's a tokens list, because that's the only thing that would run Raise the Alarm. Yeah, I think I'm actually... In that case, I'm going to plot this Show-Off as well. Oh my god, I got fucked by auto-tapper. Cool, I guess I'm not doing that. That's fine. My plan was going to be to, like, with the leftover red mana that I no shit had, I was going to play the Swiftspear, but I didn't think about... God, I fucking hate auto-tapper. Does not know that I don't mind paying life for my lands. Please, Wizards, if anybody out there by some miracle happens to see this, let me click an option, like, in the gameplay or something that, like, says I'm okay with, like, life loss on my lands. You don't have to, like, get weird and screwy with it. I'll be okay. Although, okay, now we can still do the plan anyway. My new plan is going to be to play some Show-Offs. They could have, like, a Fatal push, and if they push 1, then we're okay with that. I'm actually going to, instead of playing, like, a Balmor and, like, a Swiftspear, we're just going to attack with the Show-Offs and keep up the Ionize he now knows we have. We're doing pretty good on damage, and any lands we draw, in theory... What are we doing here? It was Fatal push, okay. I think I let him have that. Yeah, I think I let him have that. Because he's not getting rid of my whole board. Okay, next turn if we draw a land, that would be fantastic. So we could play a Swiftspear and still hold open the Ionize in response. And I guess if you want to be technical, there is a possibility in where they play like a Settle the Wreckage. Okay, and I have to manually tap this, otherwise Arena's internal logic is going to shit the bed and, like, not understand what I'm cool or not cool with. And again, we attack. If they have a Settle, we have an Ionize for it. I don't think there's going to be an instant speedway. They can summon a Flyer in the colors that I can think of. Because I think Lingering Souls is sorcery speed, but it makes up for that with Flashback. If it's, yeah, Settle the Wreckage, or what's the Wanderer, the 4-mana flash one. I will actually Ionize that. Now, they might have another removal spell, and if they have it, that's fine. Like, okay. Do they have another one? Do I care about that? I don't think I care about that, right? We just do the same thing again. Okay, we're doing things. We're doing things. Sorin. That one? Cool. Okay, the lifelink actually makes... Okay, that actually... okay. Okay, that's... helps in this case, I guess. Yeah, we're making dudes. Making dudes and doing things. I guess we'll do a Balmor Battlemage Captain. I think that actually just kills us, right? Yeah. Okay, that's not the card I expected to see, but sure, that's fine. Again, there's an argument to be made that I could, like, keep going there, but, like, again, I don't have the time. Guess a couple Rampaging Ferocidons. Let's see. He's gonna probably have removal spells. Guess Play with Fire can go out because we're bringing in some good stuff. Fading Hope does just kind of get rid of them. So maybe like a Seek Knowledge and like a Spellweaver can go out. And then yeah, there also, I didn't think about that when we were sideboarding it out, but this is one of those moments where we accept the possibility that we might have to Brotherhood's end our own board and kill our own stuff. But in my experience, if you want good, like, valuable, like, long-term decks for Historic, you have to accept the fact that, like, yeah, it sucks to, like, lose your own board, but it's better to, like, lose your own board and be alive and in the game than to keep a board and lose. If that makes any sense at all. That's fine. The Thoughtseize resolves. Probably gets a Swiftspear. Honestly, I might just actually legit cast the Show-Off and just start running. With the Fading Hopes, we'll be able to just remove, air quotes, any tokens they summon, so we're feeling pretty good about that. That's fine. Totally fine. Guess we can do an Explore and see what we find off the top. That's a great draw. In that case, okay, go ahead and bonk. And there's not even a reason to use the other one. We really value the Explore, or the map token, technically, for, like, the card draw portion of it. And they almost certainly have some form of removal, but I don't think we care. This is one of those situations where we're on the aggressive and we're doing okay. Okay, that eats my mana up. You see everything else in my hand, though, but okay, sure. But this is one of those, like, we'll go back to a couple seconds ago, before I knew it was a reprieve. In moments like that, this is a very old hat, all things considered, where you gotta make your opponent have the thing. And especially in Orzhov, the removal colors. Sometimes they're gonna have it. Just part of the game. I'm scared that's Doomscar. That's not helpful. I can Fading Hope my own creatures. That's not the worst idea in the world. Did you just get yourself killed? Why would you do that? Okay, well, let me rephrase that. That's one of those, they have to, otherwise they die. So I understand why they did. But I'll take a really slick win in a deck like this. Because that really is all this deck is trying to do. Is wins like that. where like you how do I word this? As if you were playing against it, I like our sideboarding strategy, so we're going to go ahead and run it again. But if you're playing against it, you would be surprised how much damage you can spit out in a single turn. It gets, pardon my French, kind of fucking goofy. Like, goofy in a good way, in that, one, it's good as the pilot of the deck, but also good in that, like, you know, it ends the game. Like, you know, like, yeah, it sucks to get blown out, but, you know, the game is over. You can get right back in and do another one. Alright. Also, fantastic opener. 1-drops and 2-drops. Also got sideboard cards. So we'll happily shock that in and play a Soul-Scar Mage. I think we will take a turn off and plot the show-off. Just let it hide. We'll see, though. Now, granted, they could have a Thought Seize or something, and, like, we'll lose the card anyway, at which point, yeah, what are you gonna do? Cool. Playing a land. Get the fuck out of here. Did I call it? Did I call the exact play? Get the fuck out of here, I'm a prophet! In that case, we'll go ahead and play a Balmor. Take a turn off for setup. If we draw a land card, we can either, depending on what they do, keep open the eye and eyes and just slowly chip away at their board. And if we don't, we can just play with fire and deal a crap ton of damage. What was the get? I think they had Get Lost. So they could have that as a removal spell. And this might be one of those moments where if I was my opponent, I think I would actually, if I have removal spells, I would... Oh. Okay. I would have cast them on my turn. On their... If I was our opponent, I would have cast my removal spells on their turn. Anywho. Because I might have counter spells. Or, like, interaction. Like, dive down or something. And you don't want to give me the open mana to do that. And now, if nothing else, we're just going to play with fire and look for a land. So we can have the third land to do either of our things. That is not a land. How big do they let this get before they decide enough is enough? Because they guaranteed have removal. Steam Fence will work. We'll happily take that. Suppose you would get rid of the Soul-Scar Mage, as it is the bigger of the two threats at the moment. They get rid of the... Okay, to be fair, they Get Lost... Or, sorry, the Balmor is a good target as well. Let's see what our opponent does. Well, you don't say.
Nobody knows Dominaria's shadows like me.
Yeah. Your deck is... Our opponent's deck is, like, losing a little bit of clarity. I thought they were a token deck, but I think they're just, like, a Orzhov good stuff deck. Which is fine. I will go ahead and play the show-off just straight so I can get rid of the Liliana. And if they have another one, they have another one. Meh. What are you gonna do? All things considered, we're still in a pretty good spot. Again, if they have a sweeper for one... Okay, your deck is not a level of focus that I would be cool with, I should say. Okay, there's a show-off. You're going to cast something in response. Because I'm pretty much going to counter whatever you play out of principle. Like that. Doesn't kill our opponent, but they're getting damn close to it. Now they have a turn and a window here to do something. Get the fuck out of here. They did have Lingering Souls. Okay. Now they're top decking. In that case, we're going to do a Rampaging Ferocidon and punish as much as we can what they're trying to do. I guess we'll explore the show-off in case we find something good. I don't want the Soul-Scar Mage, actually. Actually, I do want to attack. And if you... Yeah, we got it. he can kill it, but we're cool with trading here. For the most part, they're top decking. We have access to more resources than they do, I would imagine, even in a top deck off. Again, they're doing things, which is fine. Seek knowledge of something. Sure, we can do that. See what we find. Do a dive down. Guess we can throw the opt back. I hate that we have to pass, but we kind of just do, annoyingly. Oh man, this really stinks. They might end up walking this in, unfortunately. Yep. I'm so upset if this is the case. Please find me something. Or reprieve it, or just give me something here. Okay, Fading Hope is something. Yeah, actually, I have to Fading Hope it, otherwise I just die. Annoyingly. I don't need another land. Gonna try and explore and see what we can find, if anything, because we are so close to it. It's not it, though. Yeah, okay, they just won fair and square. They just walk it in. They attack with their two... I'm going to scoop manually. Unless they scoop for whatever reason. They have the 2 spirits. 4 damage on board. I go down to 2. They can activate their Cave of the Frost Dragon, turning on the creature land, and I have no course for interaction. I just die. Now, if they see it, yeah. They won fair and square. And that, you know, also helps that we got a longer game in with a shorter game, so that the video kind of balances out. Anywho, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you like it. Subscribe if you like my grab bag of content and would like to see more in the future. And if you have any sort of questions, I don't have X, what about Y, or other generally nice and or constructive comments, I'll do what I can to respond to what I see. Thank you all, and have a nice day, and be kind to one another. You know, the world doesn't need more jerks out there. Anywho, bye-bye.